I have something important to tell you all tonight. My voice echoed through the packed hotel ballroom as 200 guests fell silent. My wife Sarah sat in the front row, radiant in her designer dress. She sat under the lights waiting for applause and expecting another heartfelt speech about her courageous cancer battle. The local news crew adjusted their cameras. Our friends leaned forward, tissues ready for what they assumed would be an emotional tribute. Tonight, everything changes. I was about to reveal years of savings and community donations built on lies that would destroy everything she had created through deception. My name is Ryan Martin. I am 42 years old, and until 18 months ago I believed I had the perfect marriage with Sarah, my wife of 12 years. I worked as a marketing director at a major marketing firm, pulling 60-hour weeks and traveling constantly for client presentations. Sarah managed our suburban home with the efficiency of a CEO, handling everything from mortgage payments to dinner parties, while I chased promotions and quarterly bonuses. We had settled into a comfortable rhythm where I provided financial security, and she maintained our social life and household operations. The morning Sarah told me about her diagnosis started like any other Tuesday. I was reviewing campaign proposals at our kitchen table when she walked in from her doctor's appointment. Her hands shook as she placed a manila folder beside my coffee cup. Her eyes were red and swollen, mascara streaked across her cheeks. "Ryan, I need you to sit down," she whispered, though I was already seated. The medical documents inside showed a serious stage 3 breast cancer diagnosis with extensive treatment plans. Sarah's voice broke as she explained how Dr. Martinez had found the masses during her routine mammogram follow-up. Everything stopped. The campaign proposals became meaningless. My phone buzzed with client messages I would never answer. Sarah collapsed into my arms, sobbing about how she wasn't ready to die, how we had so many plans still ahead of us. I held her while she trembled, feeling her body shake against mine as the weight of her words settled over our kitchen. The morning sunlight streaming through our windows seemed different, more precious somehow. Those first weeks blurred together in a haze of medical appointments and treatment research. Sarah described waves of nausea that hit her without warning, leaving her doubled over our bathroom sink. She would find lumps under her arms that seemed to shift and change, sometimes disappearing entirely before her next examination. The fatigue was overwhelming, she explained, like her body was fighting an invisible war that drained every ounce of energy she possessed. Some mornings she couldn't get out of bed until noon, claiming the exhaustion felt like concrete in her veins. I threw myself into understanding breast cancer with the same intensity I had once reserved for marketing campaigns. I read medical journals until 3 in the morning, memorizing survival statistics and treatment protocols. I learned about treatment options and chemotherapy regimens. I studied photos of surgical scars and read patient testimonials on cancer forums. I wanted to understand every aspect of what Sarah was facing so I could be the husband she needed during this fight. The response from our family and friends overwhelmed us both. Sarah's sister flew in from Portland and stayed for 2 weeks, cooking meals and organizing Sarah's medication schedule. My parents drove down from Sacramento every weekend, bringing groceries and handling household repairs I no longer had time to manage. Our neighbor Janet started a meal train that brought dinner to our door every night for 3 months. The outpouring of love and support reminded me how fortunate we were to have such caring people in our lives. Within a month, I had submitted paperwork for extended medical leave. My boss understood completely, telling me family always came first, and my position would be waiting when Sarah recovered. I cleaned out my office, transferred my active projects to colleagues, and said goodbye to the corporate world that had consumed my attention for so many years. For the first time since college, I had no deadlines to meet, no clients to impress, no performance reviews to worry about. The diagnosis changed everything about how I saw our marriage and my priorities. All those late nights at the office and weekend business trips suddenly seemed foolish and wasteful. I had been so focused on building our financial future that I had missed opportunities to simply enjoy being with Sarah. Now every morning I woke up grateful for another day together, another chance to show her how much she meant to me. Sarah seemed different too, more vulnerable and appreciative of small gestures. She would tear up when I brought her tea, or when I surprised her with flowers from the grocery store. She started saying, "I love you," more often, as if she wanted to make sure I heard it while she still could. We talked about our future in measured terms, making plans for treatments and hoping for the best outcomes Dr. Martinez could provide. I had transformed from a career-obsessed workaholic into a devoted caregiver practically overnight. Sarah's needs became my only priority, her comfort, my sole responsibility. I believed this was my chance to prove my love and dedication, to be the husband I should have been all along. Every sacrifice felt meaningful, every sleepless night worthwhile if it helped Sarah through her battle. I was prepared to do whatever it took, spend whatever was necessary, to give her the best possible chance at survival. The first bill from Dr. Martinez arrived 3 weeks after Sarah's initial consultation. I stared at the invoice, my hands shaking as I read the line items for specialized blood work and genetic testing that our insurance had denied coverage for. Sarah explained that Dr. Martinez's clinic offered alternative therapies that traditional oncology centers couldn't provide, but these treatments required immediate payment before any procedures could begin. The insurance company had classified everything as experimental, leaving us responsible for costs I had never imagined. Sarah insisted we couldn't waste time fighting with insurance representatives while her cancer progressed. She showed me research papers about breakthrough therapies available only at select private facilities, documents filled with medical terminology that seemed legitimate to my untrained eye. Dr. Martinez's clinic specialized in personalized treatment protocols that targeted her specific cancer markers, she explained, waving printed studies about improved survival rates for patients who receive these individualized approaches. The standard chemotherapy covered by insurance would be like using a hammer when she needed a scalpel, she said. I liquidated our retirement accounts first, withdrawing tens of thousands from my 401k and paying the early withdrawal penalties without hesitation. Sarah needed to start treatment immediately, and I convinced myself we could rebuild our savings after she recovered. When that money disappeared into Dr. Martinez's cash-only payment system, I took out a home equity loan, using our house as collateral. My parents lent us money from their Social Security savings, and Sarah's sister contributed from her own emergency fund. The clinic operated from a small office in a converted medical building 20 miles outside town. Dr. Martinez required payment in cash for each session, explaining that insurance companies created too much bureaucracy that delayed critical treatments. He spoke with a slight accent and wore expensive suits, his office decorated with diplomas from medical schools I couldn't pronounce. Sarah would disappear into his treatment room for hours, while I sat in the sparse waiting area, counting the money we were spending and hoping it would save her life. Sarah's supplement regimen alone cost over $1,000 monthly. I had polled online support groups who warned these could cost thousands monthly, but Sarah insisted her body needed specialized vitamins designed for cancer patients, protein powders that supported immune function during treatment, and herbal extracts that enhanced the effectiveness of her chemotherapy. The organic meals delivered to our house cost hundreds more weekly, but Sarah insisted her body needed pure nutrition to fight the disease. Everything had to be perfect, she said, because cutting corners could mean the difference between survival and death. My vintage 1967 Mustang had been my pride for 15 years, but Sarah's treatment costs forced me to sell it. I also parted with my grandfather's Rolex collection, watches I had planned to pass down to our future children. These sales funded another month of Dr. Martinez's treatments and the special diet supplements Sarah required. Each sacrifice felt meaningful when I imagined Sarah healthy and cancer-free, grateful that I'd done everything possible to save her. When I hesitated about spending thousands on oxygen therapy sessions Sarah claimed would boost her immune system, she accused me of giving up on her recovery. If you really loved me, you wouldn't question what Dr. Martinez recommends, she said through tears. Do you want me to die because you're worried about money? Her words cut deep, because I had always been careful with finances. But this wasn't about money anymore. This was about Sarah's life, and I couldn't live with myself if I denied her potentially life-saving treatments because of cost concerns. Our credit cards maxed out with tens of thousands in combined debt. I borrowed money from my brother, promising to repay him as soon as I returned to work. Sarah's treatments had become our only priority, consuming every dollar we could access through loans, savings, and family generosity. The financial stress kept me awake at night, but I told myself these were temporary sacrifices for Sarah's permanent recovery. I was completely financially drained, but believed I was investing in the most important thing possible. Sarah was alive, the treatments were working according to Dr. Martinez, and we would figure out the money situation after she recovered. I never questioned whether the elaborate web of expenses could be anything other than legitimate health care. But our personal resources were running dry, and I knew we needed help from the community that loved Sarah as much as I did. The first fundraiser happened 3 weeks after Sarah's diagnosis at our local community center. I had never organized anything like this before, but desperation drove me to action. I rented tables, contacted local businesses for donations, and created flyers explaining Sarah's situation. The response shocked me completely. Our neighbors arrived with homemade casseroles and baked goods to sell. The Hendersons from 2 streets over donated a weekend getaway package for the silent auction. Mrs. Rodriguez brought her entire extended family, and they spent hundreds on raffle tickets without hesitation. By the end of that Saturday afternoon, we had raised thousands. People I barely knew handed me cash and told me they were praying for Sarah's recovery. Sarah's story spread beyond our immediate circle when her college roommate shared our GoFundMe page on Facebook. The post included photos of Sarah from her healthier days, alongside recent pictures showing her apparent weight loss and fatigue. Within days, donations poured in from strangers across the country. A woman from Oregon sent money with a note about losing her own mother to breast cancer. A retired teacher from Florida contributed and shared the link with her book club. The comment section filled with heart emojis, prayer hands, and messages of encouragement from people who had never met Sarah but felt connected to her struggle. I coordinated bake sales and charity runs that consumed my weekends. Our running club embraced the cause immediately, with dozens of participants paying entry fees for Sarah's Recovery 5K, while local sponsors covered costs, so every dollar went directly to her treatment fund. I spent my days managing these events while tracking Sarah's medication schedules and driving her to appointments. The silent auctions required constant phone calls to local businesses requesting donated items, but most donors responded generously when they heard Sarah's story. Our church congregation adopted Sarah as their special prayer focus during Wednesday evening services. Pastor Williams would update the assembly on her treatment progress, and the congregation would join hands for healing prayers, specifically for her recovery. They organized weekly vigils in the church garden, where members would gather after Sunday services to pray for Sarah's strength and healing. The Ladies' Auxiliary started a meal delivery program, ensuring we had home-cooked dinners 3 nights each week. They collected a special offering during Sunday services that raised additional thousands for her medical expenses. Local TV news contacted us after seeing Sarah's story on social media. The reporter spent an entire afternoon at our house filming Sarah as she discussed her diagnosis and treatment journey. Sarah spoke eloquently about facing her mortality and finding strength through community support. She wore her new wig and carefully applied makeup to look appropriately fragile but determined. The segment aired during the evening news with the headline, "Local Woman Fights Cancer with Community Support." Donations tripled in the week following the broadcast, as viewers called the station asking how they could contribute to Sarah's treatment fund. My former colleagues organized workplace fundraisers that brought in steady monthly contributions. The corporate fundraising efforts made me grateful for the professional relationships I had built during my career. My old boss personally contributed and encouraged other department heads to match her donation. Sarah attended support groups at the Cancer Center every Thursday evening, where she shared her journey with other patients fighting similar battles. She would return home emotionally drained from hearing about their struggles and setbacks, but also inspired by their courage and determination. The group included a retired firefighter with lung cancer, a young mother battling leukemia, and an elderly woman receiving treatment for ovarian cancer. Sarah described how they supported each other through difficult treatments and celebrated small victories together. These genuine cancer patients embraced Sarah as one of their own, offering advice about managing side effects and coping with treatment anxiety. The local chapter of the American Cancer Society approached us about naming their annual awareness walk in Sarah's honor. The Sarah Chen Hope Walk would take place in October during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, with all proceeds supporting treatment assistance for local cancer patients. The announcement appeared in the newspaper alongside Sarah's photo and story, generating even more community interest in her situation. My pride in our community's generosity grew with each successful fundraising event. These people were investing their time, money, and emotional energy in Sarah's recovery because they genuinely cared about her survival. I believe we were all united in this fight against cancer, working together to give Sarah every possible chance at beating this disease. The fundraising efforts had raised tens of thousands in 6 months, money that supplemented our depleted savings and kept Sarah's treatments continuing. The charity gala announcement came in March, when the Hope Foundation decided to host their largest fundraising event ever specifically for Sarah's ongoing treatment costs. The formal dinner would take place at the Grand Vista Hotel Ballroom, with corporate sponsors covering all event expenses so every ticket sale would benefit Sarah directly. This would be our biggest fundraising opportunity yet, potentially raising enough money to cover her treatments for an entire year. But as the gala approached, I began noticing small details about Sarah's routine that didn't quite add up. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday morning when I was looking for Sarah's insurance card in her purse. Her appointment calendar fell open, and I noticed something odd. According to her handwritten schedule, she had chemotherapy every other Thursday, but her phone calendar showed yoga classes and lunch dates on those same days. I stared at the conflicting information for several minutes, trying to understand how she could manage social activities on treatment days. When I asked Sarah about it later, she explained that she used 2 different calendars and sometimes mixed up the dates when transferring appointments. Sarah's chemo days never produced the side effects I expected from my thorough research into cancer treatments. Patients typically experienced severe nausea, fatigue, and loss of appetite for several days after treatment. Sarah would return from her Thursday appointments claiming exhaustion, but by Friday evening, she was cooking elaborate dinners and planning weekend activities. She never lost weight despite months of supposed aggressive chemotherapy. Her appetite remained strong, and she never experienced the mouth sores or digestive issues that commonly accompanied the treatment protocols Dr. Martinez had allegedly prescribed. When I offered to drive Sarah to her next appointment, she became visibly agitated. She insisted that seeing me in the cancer center would be too emotionally difficult for her, that she needed to maintain her strength by protecting me from the harsh realities of her treatment environment. "I don't want you to see me weak and sick," she said, tears forming in her eyes. "Let me handle this part alone so I can be strong for you at home." Her reasoning seemed noble, but something about her urgency to keep me away felt wrong. Other cancer patients in her support group regularly brought family members to appointments. Dr. Martinez remained mysteriously absent from medical directories. I searched state licensing boards and professional medical associations, but found no record of an oncologist with his name practicing in our area. When I mentioned this to Sarah, she explained that Dr. Martinez worked exclusively with private clinics and maintained a low profile to avoid insurance company interference with his innovative treatments. She produced business cards and letterhead that looked professional, but the address led to a small office building that housed massage therapists and naturopathic practitioners. My phone call to the clinic Sarah claimed to visit left me stunned and confused. The receptionist told me they had no patient named Sarah Chen in their system and no oncologist named Dr. Martinez on their staff. When I pressed for more information, she suggested I had the wrong facility and offered to help me locate the correct cancer center. I hung up feeling sick to my stomach, wondering how Sarah could be receiving treatments at a clinic that had no record of her existence. The receptionist's confusion seemed genuine, not like someone trying to protect patient privacy. Sarah's energy levels remained remarkably consistent throughout her supposed aggressive chemotherapy schedule. She attended yoga classes, met friends for lunch, and maintained her regular exercise routine without any visible decline in physical stamina. When I questioned her about feeling so well during such intensive therapy, she credited Dr. Martinez's personalized approach and the expensive supplements that supported her immune system during treatment. The medical documents Sarah showed me contained subtle inconsistencies that bothered me once I started paying closer attention. The formatting looked slightly off compared to legitimate medical records I found online. Some of the medical terminology seemed outdated or incorrectly used. The doctor's signature appeared different on various documents, and the clinic letterhead used fonts that didn't match professional medical standards. When I mentioned these observations to Sarah, she became defensive and accused me of looking for problems instead of supporting her recovery efforts. I discovered that the expensive supplements Sarah required for her treatment were identical to basic multivitamins available at any drugstore for a fraction of the cost. Sarah's explanations became increasingly elaborate when I asked specific questions about her treatment protocols. She would provide detailed descriptions of procedures I couldn't verify through medical research, citing studies that didn't exist, and referencing treatment methods that seemed fabricated. Her stories changed slightly each time she told them, with new details added and previous facts modified. When I pressed for clarification, she would become emotional and accuse me of doubting her fight for survival. Something was fundamentally wrong with Sarah's entire cancer story, and I could no longer ignore the mounting evidence. Every aspect of her treatment seemed designed to keep me at a distance while draining our financial resources. The inconsistencies had become too numerous and significant to dismiss as simple misunderstandings or medical complications. I needed concrete proof of what Sarah was really doing with her time and our money. I hired a local fraud investigator to document Sarah's actual activities, a common step in cases involving suspected financial deception. My marketing research background had taught me to question inconsistencies and dig deeper when data points didn't align. I created spreadsheets tracking her appointment times against her actual whereabouts. I cross-referenced her medical claims with legitimate cancer treatment protocols. I documented every financial transaction related to her supposed treatments. Sarah's story contained too many variables that refused to add up no matter how I arranged them. The investigator would follow her every Thursday when she supposedly received chemotherapy, documenting her actual activities with time-stamped photographs and detailed reports. 3 weeks later, the manila envelope he handed me contained photographs that destroyed my world completely. The images showed her dining at a cafe instead of a treatment center, shopping at department stores during supposed chemotherapy sessions, getting her nails done while she should have been fighting for her life. The timestamps proved these activities occurred during the exact hours she claimed to be receiving cancer treatment. I confronted the man I had believed was Sarah's oncologist at his actual workplace, a small massage therapy studio called Healing Hands Wellness Center. Carlos Martinez wore a confused expression when I introduced myself as Sarah Chen's husband and asked about her cancer treatment. "I give her Swedish massages twice a month," he said in broken English. "She pay me extra to write notes on doctor paper she bring." Carlos showed me the fake letterhead Sarah had provided and the template notes she had instructed him to copy for each visit. His confession revealed how Sarah had manipulated even her accomplices into participating in her elaborate deception. The medical documents Sarah had shown me traced back to a website called MedForms Templates, where anyone could purchase realistic-looking medical reports for $29.99 each. I found the exact templates Sarah had used in my browser history on our shared computer. She had simply filled in her name, fabricated symptoms, and printed them on letterhead she had designed herself. The sophisticated-looking cancer reports that had convinced me to drain our savings were nothing more than downloadable forms anyone could customize and print at home. Our financial records revealed the true scope of Sarah's theft when I finally gained access to all our accounts. She had opened a savings account at a different bank using money from our fundraising efforts. The account contained thousands in donations that should have gone toward her medical treatments. She had been systematically transferring portions of every fundraising check into this hidden account while claiming the money went directly to Dr. Martinez for her treatments. Bank statements showed regular transfers coinciding with each successful fundraising event. Sarah had also been receiving disability payments from an insurance policy I didn't know existed. She had filed claims for cancer-related inability to work, providing the same fake medical documents she had shown me as proof of her diagnosis. The insurance company had approved monthly payments based on her fraudulent cancer claims. She had been collecting these payments for months while maintaining her regular activities and social commitments. The emotional breakdown hit me while sitting in my car outside the bank where I had discovered Sarah's hidden account. Everything I had believed about my wife, our marriage, and the past year of our lives was completely false. Sarah had manipulated my love, exploited my devotion, and stolen money from friends and family who had trusted her completely. She had deceived cancer patients in her support group, people fighting real battles while she performed an elaborate charade for financial gain. I decided that Sarah's public exposure needed to match the scale of her public deception. The charity gala would provide the perfect stage for revealing her fraud to everyone who had supported her fake cancer battle. Our entire community deserved to know how Sarah had exploited their compassion and generosity. The same people who had donated money, organized fundraisers, and prayed for her recovery needed to understand that their kindness had been weaponized against them by someone they had trusted completely. I needed to plan this revelation with the same careful attention I had once devoted to caring for her. The gala preparations required the same systematic approach I had once applied to managing Sarah's care schedule. I organized evidence into 3 categories that would build an undeniable case. The surveillance photographs showed Sarah shopping and dining during supposed chemotherapy appointments. Financial records revealed the hidden bank account containing thousands in misdirected donations. The fake medical documents traced directly to template websites anyone could access for $30. Each piece of evidence was numbered and arranged to tell a complete story of deliberate deception. I spent weeks rehearsing my presentation, anticipating every question and accusation Sarah might throw at me when cornered. She would likely claim I had fabricated evidence out of jealousy or mental breakdown. She might accuse me of being an abusive husband who drove her to desperate measures. I prepared calm, factual responses that focused on documented proof rather than emotional accusations. The evidence would speak for itself without requiring dramatic theatrics or personal attacks. Law enforcement coordination proved essential to prevent Sarah from destroying additional evidence or fleeing before facing consequences. Fraud detectives confirmed that our documentation would support criminal charges for insurance fraud, theft, and charity fraud. They advised presenting the evidence publicly first, then filing official complaints afterward. This approach would maximize the impact while ensuring Sarah couldn't escape accountability through legal technicalities or procedural delays. The news crew arrangement required delicate timing to capture everything without alerting Sarah beforehand. I contacted the local television station that had previously featured Sarah's story, explaining that I had uncovered significant charity fraud involving her fake cancer diagnosis. The reporter remembered Sarah from the earlier segment and agreed to attend with cameras. I provided advance copies of key evidence so they could prepare follow-up questions and understand the full scope of the deception. The coverage would protect other potential victims from similar schemes, while ensuring Sarah's exposure reached beyond the gala attendees. Hotel security needed briefing about the situation without creating unnecessary drama for other guests. I met with management 2 days before the event, explaining that I would be revealing evidence of fraud during my speech, and that police would need access to detain someone afterward. Security agreed to monitor exits discreetly and cooperate with law enforcement when the time came. We established communication protocols to ensure everything proceeded smoothly without endangering innocent guests or disrupting the venue's operations. The Hope Foundation director was horrified to learn about Sarah's deception and immediately committed to establishing a fund recovery process. The charity would contact all donors who had contributed to Sarah's cause and offer full refunds from their emergency reserves. They also promised to implement stronger verification procedures for future fundraising cases. This commitment demonstrated that legitimate charities took fraud seriously and would make victims whole when deception was discovered. My final moments of doubt emerged the morning of the gala as I questioned whether public exposure was truly necessary. Perhaps private prosecution would achieve justice without the spectacle and media attention. But then I remembered the genuine cancer patients Sarah had deceived in her support group. People fighting real battles while she performed an elaborate charade for money. Patricia Williams had given Sarah her late husband's wedding ring, for good luck. Michael Chen had shared his children's college funds to help with treatments. These courageous people deserved to know the truth about someone who had exploited their vulnerability for personal gain. Every detail was planned, every contingency prepared for. The evidence was overwhelming, the authorities were ready, and the media would ensure Sarah's deception reached everyone who needed to know. I had spent months building this case with the same dedication I had once devoted to caring for her fake illness. Tonight, the truth would finally emerge, and Sarah would face the consequences of betraying an entire community's trust and compassion. The ballroom doors opened as guests began arriving for what they believed would be another celebration of Sarah's courageous battle. 200 faces turned toward me with expectant smiles as I approached the podium. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light across tables decorated with pink ribbons and breast cancer awareness materials. Sarah sat in the front row, wearing her carefully styled wig and a flowing emerald dress that complemented her fake pallor perfectly. The foundation director had just finished introducing me as Sarah's devoted husband who would share an update on her inspiring recovery journey. The news crew positioned their cameras for what they expected would be another emotional tribute to Sarah's courage and our community's generosity. I clicked to the first slide of my presentation, and the enormous screen behind me displayed a photograph of Sarah laughing over lunch at Cafe Milano. The timestamp showed last Thursday at 2:30 p.m., exactly when she claimed to be receiving chemotherapy. Confused murmurs rippled through the audience as people tried to understand why I was showing pictures of Sarah looking healthy and happy instead of discussing her medical progress. Sarah's smile faltered as she recognized the photograph, her eyes darting between me and the screen with growing panic. First the cafe photos, then the Nordstrom shots, then the bank statements. Each slide built an undeniable timeline of deception. The shopping trips during supposed chemotherapy appointments, the hidden account containing thousands in fraudulent donations, the fake medical documents purchased from template websites for $30 each. The audience's confusion transformed into shock as they realized these weren't celebration photos, but evidence of something far more sinister. Sarah stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the marble floor. "Ryan, what are you doing?" she called out, her voice shaking with manufactured emotion. She accused me of overreacting, of having paranoid episodes brought on by caregiving stress. "My husband has been struggling with the pressure of my illness," she told the crowd, tears forming in her eyes with practiced precision. "He's been seeing things that aren't there, misinterpreting innocent moments as something suspicious." I played the audio recording of Carlos Martinez explaining how Sarah had paid him to pose as her oncologist. His accented voice filled the ballroom as he described the fake letterhead, the template notes, and Sarah's story about needing to escape an abusive husband. "She pay me extra to write notes on doctor paper she bring," Carlos's voice echoed through the speakers. "She say is for husband who worry too much." Sarah's protests died completely as her accomplice's confession eliminated any remaining doubt about her deception. The crowd's reaction erupted in waves of gasps, angry whispers, and shocked exclamations. Friends, fellow patients, and donors gasped in horror as they processed the scope of Sarah's betrayal. The same people who had organized bake sales and charity runs stared at Sarah with expressions of betrayal and rage. Cancer patients from her support group sat frozen in disbelief as they understood how someone could fake the disease that was killing them. The same people who had prayed for her recovery now understood they had been weaponized against each other. Law enforcement entered through the ballroom's main doors with uniformed officers, moving purposefully toward the front of the room. Hotel security blocked the exit doors as Sarah realized her carefully constructed world was collapsing in real time. The news crew captured every moment as Sarah's facade crumbled completely. She looked around desperately for support, for someone who still believed her lies, but found only faces filled with disgust and betrayal. Sarah's final breakdown came when she understood that her freedom was ending. She collapsed back into her chair, the emerald dress that had made her look elegantly fragile now seeming like a costume from a canceled performance. The wig sat slightly askew, and her makeup began to streak as reality destroyed her elaborate charade. Justice was being served, but my marriage and trust were destroyed forever in the same moment. The legal consequences would follow swiftly, but the emotional aftermath would take much longer to resolve. The courtroom proceedings moved quickly once the evidence was presented. Sarah faced prison time and was ordered to repay the stolen funds in full. Our divorce finalized 6 months later, with no assets to divide, since Sarah had depleted everything through her elaborate deception. I learned that questioning inconsistencies doesn't make you paranoid or unsupportive. When someone you trust exhibits behavior that contradicts reality, investigating those concerns protects both yourself and others who might become victims. My knack for spotting patterns saved me and possibly others from further exploitation. Trust the people you love, but verify their claims when something feels wrong. Truth always surfaces eventually, regardless of how sophisticated the deception appears.